In this video, I will show you how you can use a template. You're just simply going to lay out another template or pattern for your circular step that can be used to design the steps so that they look good. And one of the big reasons for that is the small little sections that you're probably not going to want to see aesthetically in the stairway design, or the simple fact that small pieces often are difficult to keep attached to the stairway. So how do we fix something like this? Like I said, we're going to cut an extra pattern of the step and then use that step to lay out the materials that we're going to use for each step. Now, since each circular step should be the same size, you will be able to repeat each pattern through the entire stairway, and that usually looks awesome. So the first tip I'd like to give you would be to start in the front. Try to use larger pieces in the front, smaller pieces in the back if you have to. And if you can see where we started here in the corner and we ended up with a small piece here and some small pieces here. And to fix this, we could just simply move this over a little bit. And that might look something like this. So even though we have a small piece here and some smaller pieces here and one over here, we've still eliminated some of the smaller pieces over here and made these a little larger. And of course, you can always use larger materials like larger tiles or bricks. And if it's going to work better for you, you can always start at the back instead of the front. However, this isn't quite working out for this design here because it's creating the smaller pieces here. And of course, you can always change the angle of the tile or the type of tile or brick used, like we did here with different colors. Now, I don't suggest getting carried away with something like this on a circular stairway because it could be a little difficult on the eyes, sometimes even making it difficult to see the next step. However, I'm not suggesting that you can't use something like this because I've seen some awesome looking stairways with different colored tiles used in the design. And of course, one last example of the funky looking tiles here. And if the tiles are large enough, you're not going to have any small pieces. However, if you do end up with a small piece and you put it in the back, then you might be able to cover it up with your riser tiles. And I don't think thinner or thicker materials are going to help you out much here, but you're going to find that out while doing the layout on the stair tread. And here we're using standard size tiles, and you can still see the back of it here. If you don't want to see this, then make sure that you make the necessary adjustments on the extra pattern that you cut. And this isn't that difficult. You should be able to use a few measurements. You don't even have to buy the tiles or the bricks or other masonry products. You can lay it out with a framing square, a straight edge, and a measuring tape. So keep that in mind also. I mean, the main reason for doing this video is to prevent you from making an unnecessary mistake that can be easily avoided. Next up, let's take a look at a video that might be helpful for do-it-yourselfers who are going to be building a stairway with bricks. Here is another way that you can design layout and figure out the amount of bricks you're going to need for a stairway you're going to build out of bricks. And what I would suggest doing would be to figure out the size of the stairway. Lay out the stair stringer on a sheet of plywood, or lay out the design of the stairway you're planning on building. A stairway that's going to have the exact measurements you need for the treads and the risers. And if you need more information about that, feel free to share it with us in the comment area. And I'll be glad to show you how you can lay out something like this with very little effort. Next, you're going to want to place the bricks in the position that you think they're going to work best. And make sure that you adjust for the brick grout lines, the mortar that will be placed in between the bricks. And you could always do this by cutting some scrap pieces of plywood. For example, if your grout line is going to be 3/8 of an inch, then grab some 3/8 plywood, cut it into scrap pieces to find if you're going to have any problem areas. Like right here, an area where you're going to need to cut the bricks. And basically what you're going to try to do will be to eliminate as much cuts as you possibly can, or change the dimensions of the stairway if possible. And here you can see when we set our next layer or our next rows into position, we're not lining up with the top of our tread. This corner isn't working out here. And in order to make it work, we're going to need to cut this brick here and this brick here. We might not need to cut this brick or install this brick or these bricks here, depending upon whether or not we're going to fill that area with mortar or concrete. Because most brick stairways fill all of the areas they can possibly fill without installing a brick in there to save money, or if it's going to work better for your project. Obviously, you're not going to want to cut any more bricks than you have to. So here's one example of something you can do. Another example that might work would be to change the direction of the bricks. However, you can still see where we're cutting this brick and this brick. And I'm not about to suggest you're going to need to use a full brick here. You could cut this brick in half. You could cut it into thirds. All you need is the front of it. And the same over here. So again, I'm just kind of throwing out some ideas for something that might work on your project. Now with this thing right here, all we need to do to make it work would be to simply make this step a little bit longer. However, if that won't work for your project, you're not going to be able to do it. And of course, here's an example of what the pattern would look like if you're having a difficult time figuring out what the steps and risers would look like on the stairway. Next up, let's go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. This step is this length here. We're using this, and if we use it, we're going to need to cut a few more bricks. However, that won't be the case if we make the step just a little bit longer, or in your example, maybe a little bit shorter. And this is actually how most stairways are built out of brick. The bricks basically dictate the length or depth of the stair tread, and could be an excellent way for you to figure out how to only cut a few bricks. If we use this example here, we will be able to eliminate this row of bricks here, like we did down here, and only cut the bottom row of bricks, and hopefully no more bricks, but you might need to cut some bricks at the top depending upon how it's going to work out. And if you are going to change the depth of the steps, make sure that you adjust it on your pattern, because you can use this pattern here when building your stairway. Just simply drive some stakes into the ground, firmly secure the sheet of plywood, or cut out the stairway design that you're going to use, and then firmly secure that to the ground to make sure that it is plumb, all of your steps are level, and that all of the riser heights are the same. I think this is an excellent way to build a set of stairs for anyone who doesn't know a lot about working with bricks. And of course, the method that most masons are going to use, and that would simply be to cut this row of bricks if the step needs to be a specific depth. And the riser height won't allow you to use full bricks here. And don't forget to allow for the grout joint in the back here, maybe 3/8 of an inch. And this method here will allow you to change the riser heights. You're just simply going to be able to lower the entire step. For example, if I want to lower this 1/2 of an inch, it's just going to lower into this area here. 1 more inch, lower into the area. So the good news is I won't need to cut this row of bricks, but I will need to cut this row of bricks. And I'm not about to suggest you're going to be able to get away from cutting any bricks to build a stairway that will need to meet specific measurements for the risers and the treads. And the last thing I want to point out in the video is don't forget that you can always change the direction of the bricks here, especially if you're interested in reducing the amount of joints. You can see here where we have a lot more joints in here, and this actually looks better in my opinion. So there you have it. If you've never built a stairway out of bricks, something like this could be exactly what you need to lay out the stairway. See if it's going to work, and see how many cuts you're going to need to make before you even lay your first brick. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out some of our other videos on YouTube. And if you can't find the videos on YouTube, make sure that you visit our website to find a complete organized list of all of the videos we've made so far.